Spirits. Welcome back. I'm Krista Medeiros, your host, and today I'm joined by Louise Butcher. Louise's life has been shaped by many things: anxiety, motherhood, ADHD, breast cancer, and a radical reclamation of her body and freedom. After a double mastectomy, she now runs marathons topless, not to provoke, but to live without apology. This conversation is what happens when fear loses its grip and a woman stops asking for permission. Louise, I'm so honored to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me, Kristen. I'm really looking forward to this. I love talking about my journey and how it empowers others as well.
Amazing. Let's get right into it. So, for most of your early life, anxiety and the pressure to fit in were constant companions. If you could speak to that version of yourself now, what truth do you think she would be most afraid to hear?
It's such a question of so many different layers. But I think if I could speak to that person now, I think the honest truth would be that I'd be afraid to hear that I was literally not being myself, my authentic self. And the truth is that when you're not your authentic self, you are literally living a life in such a small hole, and everything becomes really, really small, including what's in your head, what you're surrounding yourself with. And I think that's a really hard truth because it's really easy to fall into that, isn't it? And I think people get scared that they have and they can't get out of it. So I think it'd be a really interesting conversation, but it's so many different things that have led me to where I am today. It would be hard to get that person to understand.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. I think to some degree, it's hard to explain to somebody what they don't know. They can't even
Yeah,
conceptualize. They just have no idea
yeah,
what a different life could be like because they just haven't lived it.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
And that's the thing. I think it's really difficult as well, especially when I've spoke to other people, maybe who've had diagnosis like cancer or other sort of life-changing events. They go into such a darkness in that time, and it's a process of going through the darkness that takes time, that how can you ever expect anybody to understand them at the end of it, and the people at the end of that to be able to get the people who haven't been through it to understand as well. It's actually really frustrating. It's quite frustrating.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know at some point you had that realization that you've been taught to suppress something in yourself. And I'm curious if watching your children move through the world with ADHD maybe seemed to mirror something back to you. And did you recognize in them anything that forced you to confront how much you had been taught to suppress in yourself?
Oh my God, yeah. That was totally it. It was all kind of this whole um, amalgamation of certain things that were happening at that time. So just before I had health anxiety all my life, up and down, which was to do with the ADHD, the ruminating thoughts. But when I had my children, we didn't know at the time they were ADHD, obviously, until things went on. I saw like this freedom in them, like a freedom that was actually quite, to me, anxiety provoking, because it was so chaotic and so creative and so messy and I, at that point, because I had anxiety, was so clean and tidy and scared of germs and scared and in this little narrow hole. But I don't remember when I was a kid being like that. I remember seeing myself in that. And then obviously as I grew up and I went into school and I went into society and I went into all these things that suppress you, I'd become this anxious ridden shadow of myself. So yeah, and then the cancer happened, and then all these things happened, and then the kids were diagnosed with ADHD, and it was like, oh my God, it's like this thing went off in my head. And when the cancer threw me into this I've got to be myself, because the stress and the anxiety, I think, to be honest, would have been a little cause of it. Do you know, that stress, the emotional stress? That's when I just returned to that authentic self. Yeah.
I love that. It's so hard to do too, but I can certainly appreciate seeing the world, watching your children, and then seeing the world through their eyes too, kind of opened up a lot for you. And I know somewhere in
Yeah.
here you started running, right? And
Yeah.
I'm guessing as a way to kind of help cope with all of this. Is that right?
Yeah. So I had a half anxiety ongoing, but there were times when it was worse and it affected my life so much that I couldn't live. I couldn't get the kids up for school. I couldn't get them to school. And the running literally became like an escapism in a form of like fight or flight. So sometimes when I was in the house and this anxiety was in my head and I was worried about germs, I had a germ phobia and all these things, I'd literally just run off. And I don't know where it came from. This was before my running journey, but I'd just run out the door and run off. And I remember feeling better. And then obviously I'd started to, I think it was during COVID, I'd started to feel unhealthy, and my anxiety was not as bad then because I'd had counselling. But I thought I really want to do, that's when I thought I'll do the virtual London Marathon. I want to train for the virtual London Marathon. And then running became a part of a focus training, but also that escapism. So yeah, it was a way of getting free of this and what was going on inside my head, but also getting out of the house, which was an enclosed space.
Yeah, that makes sense. You literally and figuratively wanted to run away.
Yeah,
It was, you were not living that life that was aligned with who you were on the inside.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that's I understand that so much now, but at the time I didn't understand why I was running off. It didn't. It was like I couldn't help it.
Yeah. I mean, it makes total sense. It was like your body
Yeah,
is just saying, just do something, just get out of here. Yeah.
yeah,
And you were actually training for a marathon when you were diagnosed with breast cancer. And I'm kind of curious to
yeah.
know, in that moment, did fear show up first, or was there something quieter and more surprising underneath it all?
Was that when I was diagnosed or on the journey to being diagnosed? On the
Either,
journey. What made
yeah.
me So it was while I was training, I remember the health anxiety was kind of, I would say, manageable at that point because I was running and I was training, and this would have been probably around about the February, March of 2022. And we don't get called up for mammograms until we're 50 in the UK. But I didn't think I had any kind of problems, cancer in my breast, there was no symptoms. But I'd always been a bit worried about properly checking, and I did check, but it was always a bit worry. If I checked, it'd be very worrying if there was something there, or I went to the doctor and got checked. And I remember thinking, all right, I'm really getting fit now. I'm doing this marathon. I feel like I've got my health anxiety in check. I think I'll just pay privately for a mammogram. And there it was about £125, just so it was like ticking a box. It wasn't anything I was worried about. So I went for that in the March and it was clear. So I was like, oh my God, I'm doing really well. I'm doing this marathon. And then because it was clear, it gave me the strength and the bravery to have a really good self-check in the shower, because I thought I'm not going to find anything. And if I do, it's not cancer. So I remember doing I don't think I'd ever done one as well. And that's when I found it was tiny, like a tiny little, it wasn't a lump. It's like a little thickening in my left breast. And it felt attached to something else. But even then I wasn't worried because I'd had this clear mammogram. And that's when I went to the GP and they were like, no, it's fine. But because of my health anxiety history, they sent me to the breast clinic for peace of mind. And that's when they found it on an ultrasound.
Wow. Wow, that's a lot. So you even had a mammogram that came back clear. Your doctor told you
Yeah,
you were fine. but still just for peace of mind, right? Almost like an
Yeah. Yeah.
afterthought, they said, okay, get an ultrasound, and that's when they found it. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a lot.
There's so many things. There's so many things there. Because I wasn't anxious then because I'd had the clear mammogram. It would have been totally different if I hadn't. But because I had, I just thought, well, mammograms show all breast cancers. Oh, I'm fine. It's a cyst. And even when I walked into the room where they checked them, I wasn't worried. I was chatting. It was only when she kept going over the same area on the ultrasound and she said, how many bits did you feel? Because I can see 5. And that's when I just went, and I could see her face. And they did biopsies there and then. So I knew there was something. And I asked her, I said, does it look normal? And she said, no.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah, that was quite a moment.
Yeah. Um, one of the things I appreciate about you as a person and your whole journey is that throughout this, you never gave up. You never just sat back and said, "Oh, okay, I've got breast cancer. Life is over. I can't do anything anymore." You really never once had that. Maybe a few moments, but you really haven't. And I
Yeah.
think that's so remarkable. And to the extent that you actually ran a marathon 6 weeks after your first mastectomy, and
Yeah.
I mean, tell me about like what belief about weakness or fragility did your body completely destroy for you during that experience?
It was so, I think when everyone, because I've had friends being diagnosed with breast cancer since, and I don't think anyone really understands until they get diagnosed the pity that gets thrown at you. And it's really from a nice place. It's from a warm place, people caring, but it destroyed me because it was like I'd gone to train for this marathon and I was being really strong and I was like, really, oh, look at me. I a little bit smug, I think. I'm fit, I'm running this marathon. And then to be told, I had breast cancer and all I remember seeing about breast cancer was people losing their hair and it all looked very weak and everyone was very sad. And that's how I thought I would be. And the pity just was like, no, I can't. I think that was the worst bit. So when I carried on doing the training, because obviously I'd been diagnosed during it, everyone said, no, you can't do that marathon now. It was kind of like a driving force that went, yes, I can. And I think in a way that kept me focused and it kept me strong. And also it was a little bit like sort of sticking 2 fingers up to the pity, because I knew that you couldn't pity someone who was running a marathon because you can't, because it's like it's full of all sorts of amazing things, resilience, determination, strength. And I know that's how I got through that, because I do not know to this day now. I've done 5 since, 5 halves, and I know that was my first major run and first marathon. And I did it in less time than I've done a couple of my ones recently. So I know how I was driven, because it was it hurt. The whole bit here was aching. And I was a lot less fit then, but it was the drive. It was like a fire. It was like this fire of like, oh, I can't explain it, but yeah, that's what drove me.
I love that because, to your point, like, yeah, you were just coming out of like an intense surgery, breast cancer, and to have that, it's in your spirit, right? Because as you
Yeah.
said, physically, you probably were not as strong as you are today or were before cancer.
No.
You're still recovering. It takes a long time to recover. And to be
Oh,
able
yeah.
to just have that on pure soul and spirit and will, that saying that I am going to do this and I am going to crush it. And that's just what's going to happen. That's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was such an amazing feeling at the end, because it taught me that in effect, if you can do that, you can do anything, and your body is more able than you think. Because I think everyone thinks their bodies, I look at my body differently now, because I look at it like a machine, like how it heals, because it got me through that marathon. It's an amazing thing. So I look at it totally different. And I think that's why I do what I do now, is to show other people who are on that journey that this is achievable. Not running marathons 6 weeks after the mastectomy. I'm not talking about that side of it. I'm talking about, you know, because I know when I was diagnosed, that initial thought was, oh my God, my life's over. I'm never going to be feminine. No one's going to like the way I look. I'm not going to be strong. And I wanted to show everyone that that's not true. That's literally just what's in your thoughts and from what's past. So that's why I sort of put my journey online so people can see that is so achievable, to be everything and more than you were before.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just about breaking stereotypes and kind of proving people wrong, but as you said, it's about living your true self, your authentic self, who you really are. And with or without physical breasts on your body, you are still incredible. You are still sexy and feminine and all the things that you were beforehand, you know, and none of
Yeah.
that changed. You're still the same person deep down. Now you're just kind of feeling free to have it come out, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And I think evolving as well, because I'd never run a marathon with breasts. So I'd evolved into something stronger without them. So it was kind of like, I'd never look back and go, oh, do you remember when I had breasts and I was this person? Because I was that person, but everybody changes throughout their life. You're not the same person you were a year ago, whether you've lost your breasts or not, because age, experience, and that was the kind of thing. There was so much emphasis and negative emphasis on, if you lose your breasts, that's it. When there's so many other things that happen to you and change during your life, that it's just a part of it. And that's how I looked at it, and I think that's how I do what I do, because I don't look at it as being that specific to me, that without them I'm nowhere near what I was before. So I think that's kind of my mindset on it. And not everyone thinks like that, but I think the way I push it out maybe changes people's perceptions on that mindset, I think.
absolutely. You know, you've said that when you woke up from anesthesia after your first mastectomy and felt calm for the first time, you were also overwhelmed with grief. Who exactly were you mourning in that moment, and why had she been forced to live so carefully?
Yeah, it was really bizarre, that moment, because the nurses came to me and said they thought I was crying and in a mess because I'd lost my boobs. It was because I'd lost so many years to that feeling of anxiety. And I woke up with this anesthetic running through my veins, making me feel so calm. And I just wish that I'd have been like that, which is how I am now. And that's what I was grieving. And I think when I look back now at my childhood, I was like that. All the way through my childhood, I was anxious. I was always ruminating. And obviously it was to do with undiagnosed ADHD, because my youngest daughter does it, and I can see it in her. But at the time, no one really knew. And that mixed the rumination, the creativity that wasn't coming out necessarily. I mean, I was a musician, so as a musician, I was being creative. But when I wasn't doing creative things, it all went in here, mixed with the social expectations of being a woman, being married, having children, just pushed me into this forced person who thought that to be who I was and to be successful and happy was to be careful and clean. I'm not saying I'm dirty, but just so, oh, I can't explain it. It's so hard to explain, but like being in this box that, like, one of those Jack in the boxes, like that get stuffed into this box and then you press the button and they just go like this. And I think I was scared of the going like this. I was scared of that coming out, which it has now. But the cancer made that do that, because the fear of going through the cancer and me getting through it showed that doing this and being this wasn't scary.
Yeah, and I mean, like your bravery is not to be overlooked, and I don't want to gloss over the fact that you run topless, okay? Like because
Yeah.
this can make many people uncomfortable, right? What do you
Yeah.
think that discomfort is really about, and how do you think it differs from your lived experience in your body?
Oh, that's such a good question. So the question before when you said what made you so careful, the being comfortable is what made me so careful in the sense of everyone in a way wants to be comfortable, but you won't evolve or grow living like that, which is how I learn because I ended up a nervous wreck, scared of everything, not wanting to feel uncomfortable. So when I'd had my mastectomy scars, and I didn't find it hard to look at them, it took a while to grieve my old self. I noticed that when I was given I was never going to have reconstructions for all sorts of reasons, but when I was given the fake breast to put on and cover, that's when the click of who is this making feel comfortable? Because I'm not comfortable putting these on in a sense of hiding. I'm making other people feel comfortable and it was a really strange feeling because when I first ran showing, I felt uncomfortable, but comfortable in being the uncomfortable. It was really weird. It was like, it's just such a freedom. It's like as if you could kind of knowing when you get diagnosed with cancer that mortality is there, the feeling of knowing you will die. So you're not trying to be safe, which is all what I always tried to do. And then realizing that and then learning to live uncomfortably, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I
Absolutely.
feel other people, when they look at me, are uncomfortable. They need to be. They need to be uncomfortable because they're living in the comfortable. And when they feel that, they grow and evolve and learn to think differently, and the perceptions are different. And that's why I do it.
I really appreciate that point that you were kind of saying like, who am I doing this for? Right? This doesn't feel
Yeah.
good to wear fake breasts for you. Like, why would you do that? Right? But they were recommending you do it to please other people, essentially, right? To make other people feel comfortable,
Yeah.
right? Like that sort of like, oh, don't stare at that person. They're different, and now you're saying
Yeah.
like, hey, I'm giving you permission to stare. If you want to look, that's fine. You
Yeah.
don't have to, but I'm here. This is my body. I'm proud of it. I'm not ashamed of it at all. And this is who I am. And I just so appreciate about
Yeah.
you because not only is it hard to be a woman in today's society, period, even if you look like Barbie or a supermodel, it's still
Yeah.
incredibly difficult. But the fact that you're having that courage to say, this is who I am, take it or leave it. And if you want to leave it, that's fine. I don't need everybody
Yeah.
to like me or think I'm beautiful in their eyes, right? The most important thing is what you think of yourself. And then that's
Yeah.
that's gonna ripple out to everybody else that's in your life, which is so beautiful. Yeah, I love
Yeah. And I think as well, because I used to worry about what the whole in my 20s, 30s, 40s, it was before cancer, the whole worry about judgment and what people thought. But cancer takes that all away because your body becomes something that keeps you alive. And also everything falls away because you think what really matters and it's not significant. So that gave me such a freedom because not worrying about other people or what they think of me is just amazing because I can not do what I want in the sense of do things to hurt people, but like some of my little videos I put online, I have such fun doing them. And
it.
sometimes I get comments that I'm nuts and mad, but I'm just not, it doesn't bother me at all. And there's such a freedom in that because you are allowed to be what you're feeling at that moment. Is so like because it is restrictive, isn't it? Anyone in society has to sort of like dampen down what they are, or you can't do that. And especially as kids do it, or you can't do that. You start when you're young, don't the parents do it, or you can't act like that. But the freedom of being able to do it when you're an adult, oh, it's just amazing. I love it. I have such fun doing those videos.
I love watching them. Keep doing them. They're amazing.
There's no.
That's so fun. So as we wind down, I've got one last question for you. If losing what society told you defined you is what set you free, what do you think women are still holding on to that is quietly keeping them trapped?
Yeah, so that's pretty much so many expectations of women, obviously. And understanding that the way they look defines them throughout your life, and especially younger women. Oh, it's really hard. It's really hard because I know how I felt when I was younger, and even just before cancer. It's not even about being younger. It was just about when something really horrendous hits you, you realize you're on your own. Society, people around you are there, but they're not with you. You are your own energy. And I think that's where everything changed in my mindset, because I realized there was such a bigger picture than this and these people that maybe think this of me. It was more about my energy connecting with other people. And I think that's what is hard for people in society to catch onto. It's like everyone's an individual. So when you are defined by being an individual, the judgment and all those elements affect you. Whereas when you become an energy and you are not this person, you are a connection to other people, which you are because you ripple out into society in other ways. That's when you're not defined by the way you look. And that's why it doesn't bother me that I haven't got breasts. And when people say things negatively, I like that, because it doesn't make me feel bad. It makes me feel bad for them. Because then I realize that what society is doing to everyone, in a sense, because they've got that opinion or that perception from what they've grown up in their individuality. So it's really, really complicated, but really interesting. So yeah, it's so difficult. But I think if I was going to give advice for women who don't want to be defined by society's norms and rules, it's literally trying to remember being 5, and this is all I can say, people who haven't gone through something so harsh. I remember when you were running around in the playground, free, with your friends, and that energy that was just about that moment, not what was going to happen in 10 minutes or what happened yesterday, just that present. Because you do when you're children, you're running around and it's all about that. And that's what I try and give them the advice to live like. It's really hard. It's so hard. It's not for me now because I've learned to live like that, but to just go like that, but to do it in little moments during your day, that would really help with the way you feel about your authenticity.
Yeah. Ooh, that's beautiful. Beautiful, Louise. I especially appreciate how you recognize that when people say rude or unkind things to you, that it's not a reflection of you, it's truly a reflection of them. And that, they're on their own journey to self-discovery, hopefully. But it's really not
hopefully.
about you. Yeah, that's just really emanates your courage and your evolution throughout all of this. Beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you. And it's a nice way to live, because it's just it just makes you happy.
Yeah.
Because there's so many things that other people do to you that change your mood and make your energy different. But when you can just be your energy and you don't let that negative energy affect the way you are, it just makes you that much more content and happy, which is really, it's a hard thing to do. But I think cancer teaches you to do really hard things. And if you can get through cancer, it also teaches you really valuable lessons that you can take on throughout your life. Because I know I've learned so many, probably from that period of my life more than any other.
Incredible. Louise, thank you so much for your bravery, your vulnerability, and your refusal to shrink. Your story challenges
Yeah.
what strength looks like and invites a much deeper kind of freedom. I'm truly grateful you shared this space with me today. Thank you so much, Louise.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Kristen.